Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makal Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles, grooming stone rule well, and to that Aquath, like him, try the four corners of the earth, holding on to this gospel of Lord Hamashiach Yahushai. Greetings, Ramanash DC Camp. Another lesson for the hopeful elect in these bitter days and times. So, yeah, this so-called shooting in Buffalo, New York, is just getting people wondering what's going on, and then you end up understanding that the Lord is allowing the elites to wade the power of their hands in the earth, and it's going to have an opposition to that. So this so-called lawmaker from Arizona, yeah, she's just been an obstacle, man, to the narrative of these super elites of what they've been trying to do. I believe her name is Wendy Rogers. So it just shows you, man, that a lot of people are aware of what Esau's been up to. All right, whether the victims are real or not, that's besides the point. It's about controlling the narrative. And when the so-called government can no longer control the narrative, they get upset. They push the media to go into overdrive, to repeat the story over and over and over, to make people believe. When people's mind has been sealed, has been shut off against the mainstream media, now they have to go to other techniques. They have to compel them, to give in, just like they did with the so-called scandemic. They had to threaten people's lives, people's livelihoods. They had to use people's children as cannon fodder. All right, and they had to get the so-called government involved. So that's how dangerous this contention is. All right. So the woman's basically saying, the whole agenda is basically about control, and then you got the federal governments want to take advantage of the situation to exert more authority and control over the people. So I'm going to read a quick precept from the book of Proverbs chapter 14, verse 15. It says, "A simple believeth every word, but a prudent man looketh well to his going." All right, and that's why the Lord spoke to our forefather Moses that we should be circumspect. All right, that we need to be circumspect, that we do not fall into the traps of the enemy. All right, so it's Edomites are understanding the whole agenda. They're no longer, eating the Kool-Aid that they used to, running around with the American flag. Now they're thinking twice, about the agenda that they've been putting on TV. All right. And then, the men of the Lord are going to understand that these things are going to take place. All right. So whether they want to bring up the agenda of Sandy Hook, they want to bring up the situation with Virginia Tech, people just understand that it always ends up in more control, more control, more control, more control. Same thing with the New York subway agenda. So It's always the same old storyline, all right? And the people are just tired of the same old trickery, and they're not following along with it anymore, all right? Because they already be yelling and screaming at their so-called council meetings, talking about solutions to the problem, but the so-called politicians are, you know, jostling for more control over the people. Even the so-called magistrates, judge, he wants power too. You see that during the pandemic, you know, trying to make a woman apologize for keeping her business open. So the enemy is going to use all type of tactics, whether they want to use crisis actors or they want to use goons with guns and badges. It's going to take place, and there's going to be some resistance. All right, and the scriptures talk about that. So enough of me just giving a speech, man. Let me just get some precepts. So the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse verse 3 says, "A prudent man foreseeth the evil, and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." All right. So the men of the Lord that are becoming more aware of prophecy taking place are going to, dive deep into the scriptures, to get their intellect sharpened, all right? To pray for that keen eyesight, to see through the smoke and mirrors, and to understand what the plan of the Lord is, because evil has to take place on the earth on so many different levels, all right? And it's up to the man of the Lord to build up that resilience, that muscle memory, all right, that response in righteousness of how to cope in a disastrous environment. Because all this agenda of mass shooting is nothing new, Even what happened to the Gadites, when they were doing the so-called ghost dance. What happened? What happened? What did the so-called government soldiers do? So there's nothing new under the sun, So all the politicians would like to yell and scream white supremacy. Hey, America's foundation was structured on white supremacy, till this very day. So the narrative is about white supremacy. They've the super elites, they've cut their teeth, in the business of white supremacy. So why are they trying to distance themselves from it? So there is no if, ands, or buts about it. It's clear as day and night. Okay, so a lot of people are upset that so-called black people got blasted on live camera. That they caught the shooter alive. Because at one point in time, they always like to pull that idea of mental breakdown, mental deficiency, but now they want to pull in the ideas of white supremacy, uh, replacement theory, anti-Semitism. So they're going to do everything they can to try to push the idea that these so-called white supremacists are the major reason that these mass shootings are taking place. But hey, if you're gonna take down one, you gotta take down the whole thing. The super elites got skeletons in their closets, and these so-called white supremacists, whether they wear uniforms or not, or publicize their point of view, just like the Ku Klux Klan. It doesn't change anything, because they know that they're in the same boat, and the super elite are not spreading the wealth and not sharing the goodies. All right. So when things are going down this path, they're gonna clash. All right, because a lot of so-called this middle America white folks, man, wherever they are, let me say middle class white folks, they've given a lot. They've sacrificed their sons and daughters based on the narratives of the super elite, drinking the Kool-Aid of patriotism. And now they understand that the whole system has been subverted from within. And they know that they can no longer afford to give up what they've been holding on to, the little bit, the little bit that they have. They're scared of losing it because they've seen the agenda. They've seen the whole agenda of the Great Reset, and they don't want to drink that Kool-Aid no more. They're yelling and screaming for freedom, and they're not playing along with the whole agenda of right versus left. They understand they're different wings of the same bird, different sides of the same coin. They understand that you have people masquerading as patriots, but they're basically undermining the structure of their lives, of their livelihood, the stability of their communities, of their cities. They see exactly what these so-called government officials are doing with the whole immigration agenda. So they see how they're using the Northern Kingdom as pawns in their game to subvert the stability, of these Edomite communities, man, these Edomite cities. They understand the effect of having cheap labor. They understand the effect of having a corrupt criminal justice system that allows these criminals to just get out of jail on bond, and then they commit another crime and cause havoc in the communities. They understand the whole agenda of manipulating households, so they could vote a certain way. So let me go ahead and play this video, and then I get some more precepts.
Arizona lawmaker is facing backlash for her comments about this shooting. We're talking about State Senator Wendy Rogers, who was actually censured earlier this year after making threatening comments at a white nationalist rally.
And tonight she is facing another Senate rebuke after pushing a conspiracy theory about a motivated shooting in Buffalo. Political editor Dennis Welch caught up with her today. Dennis.
Yeah, and the Senate voted today to launch an ethics investigation into Senator Wendy Rogers for promoting a baseless conspiracy theory that claims the federal government is responsible for the mass killing. Just hours after 10 people lost their lives in a mass shooting in Buffalo, Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers posted this cryptic message on social media. Quote, "Fed Boy Summer has begun in Buffalo."
Fed Boy Summer's like whatever, sounds like a freaking Broadway play.
But Matt Browning, an expert on hate groups, said Rogers is actually promoting a dangerous conspiracy theory, suggesting that the federal government is behind the racially motivated killings and trying to use the deadly violence as justification to seize control.
Basically, she's saying, here we go again. They're making up another thing. They're going to take our guns. Anything that they can do to take our guns. Oh, and we're going to blame it on a white guy.
Well, how can they dispute that soundbite? So these Edomites, they're not as stupid that or ignorant like a lot of people think that they are. Because when they go online and they study the situation with the Black Panthers, they understand the infiltration and the murder of so-called Panther members and the ideas and the ideology they stood for. And then they look at the Klansmen and see how they were manipulated and infiltrated and used by the government for their own agenda. So they understand that there's a pattern, there's a pattern, because when they broke into that so-called FBI field office, they had the records. They saw exactly what was going on. So if you think the super elites are just going to sit down and allow some grassroots movements to gain steam and start winning seats in local elections and state level elections, you know, a lot of people are going to be sadly mistaken because they understand that the power has to flow from the top to the bottom. But when there's a blockage or an obstacle, then they have to push harder. That's why they have to do all types of dirty deeds, to undermine the people. They have to appoint people into certain offices. They have to put certain people in charge of certain operations, especially in government. And then you also have the private sector and the non-profit sector. So it's so much that a lot of people are catching up to, and they understand that when they watch the news, they take it with a grain of salt, and they dig deep into the backgrounds of all these so-called commentators, and they compare news from different sources, different channels, and they make an informed decision. Then they know that an entity with a history of pushing up propaganda and pushing violence throughout the four corners of the earth. Would they want to bet that last dime on such an entity? When someone says, read my lips, no new taxes. When someone says, if you like your plan, if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Just events like that. So when someone says that, oh well, Osama bin Laden is no longer a priority, you just turn around and look at yourself in the mirror. It's like, well, it's a strange reality, that we all have to examine. All right, so I'll play the clip some more.
That's basically what all that is.
Since the initial social media post, Rogers has condemned the violence on Twitter, while also accusing the government of promoting violence and warning that, quote, everything is not what it seems. On the Senate floor, we had to ask Rogers to clarify her comments.
Senator Rogers, do you have a second to give us a statement?
While Rogers blew past this without saying a word, her opponent in the upcoming Republican primary, Senator Kelly Townsend, did not hold back.
She's become the face of this, conspiracy theory, racist, anti-Semite, and when they want to talk about these things, they point to her.
Now, as a result of her comments, Rogers now faces another referral to the Ethics Committee. Now, that vote took place today. It was 24-3. And now, Democrats did attempt to expel Rogers, but that motion failed. Again, Rogers has already...
Yeah, so, once the cat is out of the bag, all the rats got to run, so it's not going to go well, with those folks that want to push the narrative, all right? They're going to be extremely upset when you have, when they have people outside their homes, with picket signs, yelling and cussing at them. So it's one of those things you have to look forward to seeing. All right. So that's why it's getting very interesting. So the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 12, it says, "For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them." All right. So a lot of people are not aware of, these events in history that the government has used as a launching pad to get more control. They're still stuck in the Kool-Aid zone. So yeah, eventually, they're gonna get trapped up in it, and they're gonna regret. Just like those folks that went up for January the 6th. They want to go express their frustration, and they ended up getting snookered, right? So, end of the day, if you think the media is gonna put on the news, that there were agents in there trying to stir up the pot, they're not gonna do that because the media is owned by the super elites, so they have to push a certain line, a certain narrative, all right? So that's how they do it, man. They have to pitch one people against another people, just like they had their hands on the back of the NAACP and the Klan. You could tell, you could tell they were using the NAACP and the Klan to do their deeds, because they wanted chaos and they wanted to push a certain agenda. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why you had so much of upheaval. All right. So Isaiah chapter 32, verse 7, it says, "The instruments of the churl are evil. He devised wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speak it right." So the man of the Lord understand the cost of speaking truth, the cost of holding on to a sincere gospel of righteousness that the Lord Yahweh Shai said must be dispersed abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. So we know exactly that, they're going to come in contact with us. The government agents are going to come in contact with us, and they have to, do what they were instructed to do, to try to stop the gospel, to try to subvert the gospel, So some men of the Lord are going to lose their lives, some are going to be reserved, to push the word. So that's just the cost of serving the Lord Hamashiach Yahushai. You have to count the costs. You want to endure all the way until the end. You have to accept, just like the book of Lamentation, you have to accept the burden. You have to learn how to be quiet in the spirit and meditate on the calling, all right? Because our experiences in the world have showed us that certain things are not feasible, and you just have to let it go, all right? So final precept will be from the book of Psalms chapter 37. It says this: "Rest in the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. I read it one more time. Rest in the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Ashai Bashim Kwakadash, and wait patiently for him. Alright? Wait patiently for him. You know, all this news they keep pushing out there to try to get people upset. You just have to learn to hold your horses, you know, learn to be angry and sin not. Alright? So it says, fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Alright? So that's words of wisdom for the hopeful elect. Not to be so quick, you know, to form an opinion, but to let the word of the Lord have free course. Because by doing so, by letting the word of the Lord have its moment, you are able to prevent yourself from all this confusion. All right, you see clearly, you know, the pattern of chaos and control that the government is always interested in. All right, because weeks ago, days ago, was this so-called agenda for overturning Roe versus Wade, and then you had the so-called fuel crisis, and then you had the so-called critical race theory that a lot of parents are upset about, and then you had the Ukrainian agenda. So it's just so much stuff that people cannot keep up with. But those that do keep up with things that's going on, especially around the world, and they connect the dots, they're not as easily shaken by every narrative that's pushed out there on the news. So that's the point there, Akim. You know, you just have to learn to observe how this super elite, they use this mass tragedy to take control of people's lives, and they know, you know, they know what's going on. So that's why you have all these fusion centers that create reports and pass it out to these law enforcement agencies. You know, so there's nothing we can do to change it. The Lord is just going to allow it to have its, you know, have its field day, right? So just like the scripture says, those are there, you know, deemed for the sword, they're going to fall by the sword, right? Shalom.